So hello and welcome to my channel. So in this video, we're gonna talk about how to texture. There's so many people that is interested with this video, so I have prioritized it. So first, let's go with the tpacTool. I'm gonna show you the version I'm using. Right now, I'm using the 0.3.2. I think this is the latest version from SZSZSS. You can find this on forum, but if I remember to put this in the description, I'm gonna put it. So first, let's go with this directory. If you don't know where this is just in your game directory, native, and em asset package. Just copy the directory here, file, open asset package, and select the em asset package. You can also use the asset package, but this is much better. So in here, you can see the new version, latest version has the search engine. That's how you would call it. I'm just gonna open my editor. I cleaned up my desktop for the sake of this video. Everything is in here. So let's start it for now. Let's say our sample is sturgeon lamellar. It will filter it. Oops. This is from my mod. Sturgeon lamellar. I really hate this kind of error. Even though you choose to ignore it. Sturgeon lamellar, whatever we can use. We're gonna use the golden one. Sturgeon lamellar gambeson. If you are using, for example, this one is rig, or you want this to be exported as rig, then you're gonna have to choose this one. And in here, we have the option to export the textured material, but I will not export this since I cannot use it on Blender. I have experienced some problem with it. Better to export it yourself than make it be exported with this mesh. So let's export it. Maybe we should export it on desktop since this is very spacious right now. And change the file into DAE since object file doesn't support rigging or skeletons. Also, this won't make the position messed up. It will always appear on the correct position. Now let's go with the material. If we look at the resource browser, sturgeon lamellar gambeson, if I am pronouncing it right, you can see here that it has a material, but we cannot export material. We can only export texture. This one is the material. As you can see here, the material has 4 texture in it. Diffuse, normals, and specular. The diffuse 2 map, which is the C, is responsible for theme color. The red will be the main banner color, and the green is the secondary color of the banner. But we are not gonna be using this. We're gonna export only the D and S. So they only appear here in the filter. So just go to, and you can see where you can take it. But since we can also search it here, we're gonna go to texture. We go to material. I'm not sure if you can export it. Oh, you can. I think, or not. Oh, you can still export it. But I'm gonna use the one I know, texture, and search for, what do you call this one? sturgeon lamellar gambeson D. We only need sturgeon lamellar gambeson D and S. So for the size, we're gonna choose the full size. This is also the full size, but some texture has a lot different sizes. So I'm gonna use this one. Export it on desktop. Export this and this one. And what else? So let's say we have what we needed. Let's go to Blender, import the collada. It should be in the desktop. You can see here that the latest, if you're not aware yet, the previous version of tpacTool is causing the collada file facing the wrong way. Now it is now facing the correct way, so we don't need to rotate it. Now if we go to material preview, there's nothing here because we exported this mesh without its material. But if we go to shading, you can see here that this is also blank. Let's just ignore this one. And if I press Shift A for search and image, if you are like me that cannot remember where to find image texture, I think you can find it here, but I'm always searching for it on the search bar. Let's open it on desktop, the D. For now, we were not gonna be using the normal and specular since we're gonna be using, or maybe we will, but we're not gonna be editing it. If we put this in the base color, you can see that it is applied here, but the normals or they call it bump map, is not applied. Don't worry about it. We only need to edit the base color. For example, you want this to be color blue or color red or something. Someone asked about changing the color as Serai Toolban. You can easily mix two color. I'm gonna copy this. This is not the normal method, but this is all I know and it's very effective for me. Let's go to mix shader. Oops. And maybe put this here. Also this one. But in here we're gonna change this into, let's go to paint. And let's say we want to change it into a pure yellow or pure orange. This will not look good, but this is one method. Let's import the image here, orange. So you can see that it will mix them together, and you can strengthen the other one or the other one. You will not gonna be doing it like this. You can only, for example, apply this on certain part. For example, you only want to apply it on this pouch. I cannot use Control L. Let me tell you about UV editing. This is the one responsible for, let's just strengthen this one first. UV editing is responsible for mapping the texture, image texture. If we select this one, I'm gonna select everything. This one is sync selection. The effect of this is very helpful. For example, I select this. You can see we needed face. Let's go to wireframe. You can see that the only one you selected, the face you selected will only appear here, or that will be the only one that will appear here. And if I use the sync selection, that means if I select, even though I don't select anything here, it will appear here. And if I want to delete this part, you can see that I can easily select the skirt without having to select it like this. I hope I make sense to you. So we're gonna choose this one. So this is its faces. I think that's all for this pouch. And we're gonna make a new material. And this material, let me just copy this first material. Ooh, what happened? Why can't I copy this? Now we're talking. And I'm gonna increase this one into orange or mix orange. Color orange is a little ugly. Let's change it into something else. To the a little lighter, maybe black. Lighter and then black. This is very useful on metal if you want your metal to be painted. Let's just re-import it. We cannot see it yet because everything or every face of this mesh is using sturgeon lamellar gambeson. But if I select this pouch and in the material one, I assign it, you can see in the shading, let me just go to shading again, that I can change its color, whatever I want. For example, I want it to be, I'm using paint, but you can also use Photoshop if you know. I don't have that kind of skill, but my sister is an artist. I mean, digital artist. So sometimes she's the one I'm dependent on. I'm depending on her. Let's go again here. You can see that you can change this to any color you want. That is how you change the color of your turban. And it's not yet finished. This is only the part one of how to do it. You still need to export it, and there's so many things you have to do for if you will gonna make a two materials. But let's make this very very simple. So there's a one user that is asking how to add a cross. So we're gonna show it right now. One is manually adding it through texture paint, which is my hand is not artistic. So if I'm gonna add some cross here, it would be laughable. If I add cross here, this is this is how you do it and it's done. But if you want to add a sigil, for example, you have let's create another paint. You want to create, for example, a sigil. Maybe let's go to internet. Uh, Symbol PNG. Let's just choose anything. This one looks Batanyan. Let's choose something that is familiar. uh, copy and crop and save. I hope the what do you call it, transparency is still here. Name is leaf, and let me just delete the cross I have put. The same with the first one, leaf. I'm not sure which part of the cloth it is now, so we're gonna have to edit the original image, which is sturgeon lamellar gambeson, and face selection is, transparent selection. This is a very rough way to do this, or how I did it in the Tetsojin mod. So if I save this, that is the one way to do it. If I save this and re-import the diffuse, you can see that the symbol is here. But there's another way to do this. Let's go back again with sturgeon lamellar gambeson. And let's export this one. We need the same sizes. For your information, if you're using textures, you need the same sizes for every texture in your material. So let's export this one as PNG. So again, we're gonna delete this. If I exported this, or maybe we can save this one as a version 2. Sample texture P. And I'm gonna, did I save it? I think I saved this one. But I'm gonna restore it, this one. Let's copy the name. It hung. Let's go back here for now. The other way we can do is use the theme color and paint this into red also. If we use the texture paint manually, or you want to use the second method I did, this one, yes. This is very ugly edit. I think this is smaller. Is this 2048? Let's just get on with it. Copy the droplet, uh, color picker, and fill this red, the same color of this one. And also fill this black. And no worries about it. This is just a sample. I have Control S it to save and re-import it on Blender. Shading. So now it is here and ready to go. Let's just export this. Let's add not used in the skeleton so that this will not be used. This is not correct. This is not in the correct position. So better to not use it. maybe apply it to here, but not necessarily. And make this sample mesh. Select both of them, file, export as FBX, and maybe the name of the mesh should also be the name of the file. Now this is the very important one, desktop. This is the most important thing to do on the rig mesh, or the mesh that has a skeleton. Selected objects only, which is, this will only be, I mean, the pose, the human skeleton, and this one will be exported. Now the next one is the armature. Always remove this add leaf bone so that it won't mess up your animation. Now let's go with, now that we have exported it, I think we also rename this. Not yet. Let's call this N, and this one S. And this will be the one we're gonna be using. So let's name this something else. This one should be C. Let's go to our modding tools. I think I haven't activated the mod. So if you don't have anything here, you don't see anything, just go to your modding tool, file, create new module, and anything you want. I'm gonna call this one texture tutorial. And I'm gonna skip the video up until to when I reactivated the mod. I'm gonna exit this first. So now that we have activated the mod, you can see now that this is here. You can also create a folder to sort out your or manage your mesh. But since this is just a sample, I'm gonna directly import them. Sample mesh, sample texture, C, D, N, S. This one is, maybe we're gonna take this one too. For textures, especially for normals and specular, I think it will take longer. First, the normal. I'm pretty sure I have imported this one. Why is this not being imported? There's something wrong with it. So I'm gonna call this M2. Before I recorded this video, the game crashed while imported this. So I think that's what the cause of the problem. So now we're gonna need to create materials. But I don't want to create from the scratch because there's so many settings here I need to do manually. So to save some time, I'm gonna delete this now. Since I have taken the sturgeon lamellar gambeson, I'm just gonna create an override material of sturgeon. What? Sturgeon lamellar gambeson. Create override and change the name of this so that it won't override the original sample texture matte. And as you can see here, the armor has already the material of the old one. It was because that is the name of the material here. So that's not a good idea. So let's change it again. Maybe let's remove this one. and export this again. The same settings for what I did earlier. And uh, let's just import the new one, update, and it will now use this material. But in case that you don't want to re-import it, you can just search this sample material here. I mean sample texture here and apply it manually. But if you're using an LOD 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're gonna have to manually change it. So it's better to export your mesh with uh, the name of the material in here, sample texture matte, sample texture matte. And now it's still using the old one. So let's just search the sample texture. Since the N is N2, it will not be detected. You can see sample texture S is already in here. The sample texture N should be here, but since it is N2, we will have to add it manually. Only also the sample texture C. Compile and save. Let's use the first one. We cannot see the changes here because this doesn't have a theme color. I think you can see here. You can only see the theme color change in this armor only if there's a color change. But if there's none, for example, this is a cross, we can only see it if we have a different theme color. In case we put green here, then it will match with the banner. I mean the theme color of the banner, the theme color, secondary color of the banner. This is the secondary color. I'm not sure why it is adding here. I didn't add green here. Maybe the height or this my let's just okay this one. It's not very obvious, but that's it for the sigil. I mean that's it for the texture C diffuse 2. But what if you don't want something like that? For example, I'm gonna remove this and use the V3, compile and save. So this will always appear no matter what the theme color. Oh, it doesn't have a theme color. I remove it. But if you have a theme color, this will always be here and it doesn't look good. It looks very forced. So it's better to use this one. I hope you learned from this episode and thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and it will help me too. So take care. Not yet. We will need to see this in game. So how will we apply this in game? Let's finalize this first. This is very confusing, I think, for a newcomer. So let's just finalize this one into sample texture D, sample texture C, compile and save. Let's just ignore this one and then delete this. You only need the D, N, S, C, and your armor. We're gonna see this in game. I haven't added some LOD yet, but if you want to know how it is done, just Shift D, put LOD here, LOD1, add decimate. Now you can duplicate this to 2, 3, 4, up to 5. Just change the uh, suffix to 3, 4, 5. You can also add 6, but that's, I'm not sure if it will change something. So let's use 0.8, which is 80%. It will decimate 0.5, 0.2, and 0.1, 0.05. That's the commonly used values, but I'm pretty sure at this armor, if you use those values, let me show you. This is what it looks like on the far away. We will see it. Let's just export it again the same way. Sample mesh again, update. So it is said here. Oh, it's still not updated. It should be updated. If it's not, I'm gonna delete this one and re-import the asset. You can see here that there's 5 LOD. This will be their appearance. So at LOD 4, which is at distance 70, I think this is the 70 meter. I'm not sure because if I zoom out here up to 70, then this is fine because if you, let's just try this one. It's not very noticeable unless there's a 500 person standing here at 70 meter with an invisible body. So in that case, just increase the face count, but that will sometimes crash your game. So let's move on into XML editing. I hope you're still with me. This will be the final phase of our project. Let's go with I think our module is named texturing tutorial. This is a duplicate. Our asset source is here. Asset package is empty. Uh, we will later fill this one. But for now, we need the XML from original, which is modules, Sandbox core, module data, and items, body armors. And we also need this is zoomed out. We also need uh, what's our texturing tutorial, module data, items. Maybe we should just copy everything here and paste here and search for sturgeon lamellar gambeson. This will be our template. And let's make something unique, sample mesh, which is also the name of our mesh. Mesh here would must match your mesh name, but in your ID it's optional. You can name this as long as there's no capital, there's no space. And in here, let's just call this AAA so that we can find it easily in game. And the culture, you you know what to do. Difficulty, I'm not sure if there's a skill requirement for an armor, but the most important one here is the flags. Because if you don't use the team color, then even though you add the texture, C or the diffuse 2, even though if you use this, if your XML doesn't have the theme color, then it will not be used. So now I think we're good to go in game. You can also publish the module uh, if you don't want other people looking at your files. Just publish it, and our asset package will be uh, this is a lot smaller than your asset source. If you look at your asset source, 29 MB, just one armor. We're talking about only one armor, so you have 10 armors, and there's gonna be 290 depending on the size of your texture. But let's go now. Now let's go to the items. You need to have your cheats enabled so that you can access the cheat inventory. It's very laggy for me. So let's go to armor, and I name it A. So in this name sorting, so you can see the sigil, although it's very faint. Let's try our uh, banner. You can see that there's a messed up in the rigging, because normally I am applying the rigging in the armor. In case you haven't watched it, there's a workflow video from me on my playlist to how to fix this one. For now, let's add different colors. Red, green. On 1.5.6, we can switch. I mean 1.5.8. It's not very obvious, and I'm not sure why I'm very laggy at this time. Maybe because my computer is open for a long time. But I think this is it for this episode. I mean, for this video, this is it. So thank you for watching. I'm gonna be adding a video about baking, textures, and something else. So please subscribe and take care.